I just want one. We will be starting in just a little bit. In about 2-3 minutes, you guys. Hey, everybody, we'll be starting in just a few minutes. That's right, follow too strong, baby. Tons of press surgery. We're going to be starting in just a few minutes, you all.
guys, I'm gonna pass these around. This is like a 2-minute warning. If you pick one for outlet, I need to get more. I can settle it down.
April 12th at 5 p.m. at the Mahama.
Visual for, okay, good. All right, so we have the visual for the community visual, you guys, and it's going to be tomorrow, April 12th at the Muhammad Ali Center at 5 p.m. Just so everybody knows. If there's any, oh no.
Sorry.
Thanks. Yeah, that'd be awesome because it was perfect. We're just waiting for the mayor and all them to come in. And they should be here any minute because everybody else is here. I'll take a screen. I can take a screenshot of my desk. Maybe you can have it. You can keep it so one of us will respond.
I told them everything that they were
Oh.
Just as a backup.
Yeah, I don't either.
Well,
will you screenshot it and then just you keep the papers just I used to have a backup phone, but now
okay.
All right, cool.
Thank you all for joining us. Yesterday was an incredibly difficult day for all of us in Louisville. I want to start by saying thanks again to everyone who pulled together to get through yesterday and to continue on today and the days ahead. First, that starts with our police officers. Chief, to you and your entire team, thank you all very much. In particular, thank you to Officer Wilt, Officer Galloway, who were two of the first officers to arrive on the scene, to confront the assailant and to save lives. You and all of the colleagues at LMPD, true heroes yesterday and every day. And to our other first responders, EMS, Louisville Fire Department, Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, the 911 operator at MetroSafe, who handled calls and dispatched so efficiently and well, and to our state and federal partners, thank you. And also a special thanks to Dr. Smith, to you and all of your colleagues at the University of Louisville Hospital. Thank you for saving lives yesterday and for saving lives every day. I also want to acknowledge the rest of our Metro government team who dealt with the challenges, adapted to the circumstances, and did what was asked of them yesterday to help others in our community. Thank you for embodying the best of public service. As we talk about what's happened since yesterday, I have to acknowledge the painful fact that this awful act of violence at Old National yesterday has taken another life. Late yesterday, we learned that Deanna Eckert passed. She was 57 years old. She was an employee of Old National Bank. I knew Deanna also. Deanna was a very kind and a very thoughtful person. She was a wonderful woman who will be missed. Her death means another family in mourning and adds yet another layer of tragedy to this moment. I want to briefly read a statement from Old National Bank CEO Jim Ryan, who's asked me to read this on behalf of him and his colleagues at Old National. Quote, "There are no words to adequately describe the sadness and devastation that our Old National family is experiencing as we grieve the tragic loss of our team members and pray for the recovery of all those who were injured. Obviously, this is an incredible, difficult situation, and our entire focus is on making sure that everyone affected has the support and assistance they need. On behalf of everyone at Old National, I also want to acknowledge and thank Louisville law enforcement, the medical community, and state and local officials for their incredible response to this tragedy. And finally, we ask you to please continue to pray for all those affected." Again, that was Old National CEO Jim Ryan. Our thoughts are with the families who've lost loved ones, and we're also thinking and praying for the people who were injured in this attack, including our police officers. So for an update on their condition, I first would like to welcome Dr. Jason Smith, Chief Medical Officer at U of L Health. Dr. Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. So from U of L Health and U of L Hospital, I want to send my prayers and thoughts out to all the families that were affected yesterday, both those we treated and unfortunately those we did not. An update from us, we still have 4 patients in the hospital. 2 remain in the ICU. Officer Wilk still remains in critical condition, but we have been able to upgrade our other patient in the ICU to stable condition. The other 2 remain in the hospital being treated for non-life. I want to thank my team, again, the emergency department, physicians and nurses, my trauma team at U of L Health, and all those that supported us yesterday. I also want to send thank you to the American Red Cross. We used 170 units of blood yesterday to treat these victims, which far outstrips our hospital capacity. And their ability to get us that blood to save those lives helped save those lives. So I want to thank them for that. I'll be happy to take questions at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. And now for a brief update on some information about things that we've learned about the events and the assailant yesterday. I'd like to call on our Chief of Police, Jacqueline Gwynn Villaroel. Chief.
Mayor and everyone who's in attendance on today. We have learned that the suspect in this incident was a current employee of Old National Bank. We have also learned that he purchased the weapon used in this tragic incident on yesterday on April the 4th. He purchased the weapon legally from one of the local dealerships here in Louisville. We have executed a search warrant on his residence, and we have recovered items, and we cannot get into specific details on what we recover at this time because, again, the investigation is ongoing. And we want to make sure that we're providing accurate information. The family deserves that, the community deserves that. We also would like to share that later on this afternoon, we will be releasing body-worn camera footage of the incident. And so that information at the time will be released to you and the location, so everyone will be privy to that information. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. We need to acknowledge that a tragedy like this affects everyone. I've already talked about some of our first responders, colleagues in Metro government. Thanks also to the faith leaders, social workers, and mental health professionals who provided comfort and counsel to people in understandable distress. And also we want to acknowledge the teachers and parents who had to have difficult conversations with our children throughout our community about this inexplicable act of violence and cruelty. We're all feeling shaken by this, and scared, and angry, and a lot of other things too. It's important that we come together as a community to process this tragedy in particular, but not just this tragedy. Because the reality is that we have already lost 40 people to gun violence in Louisville this year, including another young man yesterday, just a few blocks away from Old National Bank, shortly after this tragic incident happened. That was a separate targeted incident, but the result was the same. Needless tragedy, needless loss of life. In order to help the people of our community, of our great city, come together and deal with this outbreak of tragedies, to grieve, to pray, to unite, I'd like to announce that we are going to be hosting a vigil tomorrow, Wednesday, at 5 p.m. at the Muhammad Ali Center Plaza. This vigil will be to acknowledge the wounds, physical and emotional, that gun violence leaves behind. It will be an interfaith opportunity for our entire community to come together, grieve, heal, to begin to move forward. We also know that Wednesday is a night of worship for many across our city. And so, working with Paul Callahan and his colleagues at the Office of Safe and Healthy Neighborhood, we will be having grief counselors at over a dozen churches throughout our city that have regularly scheduled worship on Wednesday evenings as well. We invite the entire community to join us at the Muhammad Ali Center tomorrow at 5 p.m. And also, if you prefer to worship on your own, again, we will be providing some grief counselors, and we'll have a list of those churches where members of Office of Safe and Healthy Neighborhood will be located by mid-afternoon today. And I want to thank the Muhammad Ali Center for hosting this vigil on such short notice. One really lovely thing in the midst of this tragedy has been the sheer number of people locally and around the world who've shown such love and support for our city. It means a lot to my wife, Rachel, and I. We are deeply grateful on behalf of everyone in Louisville for those who have reached out from beyond and within our city borders. There are so many people who want to do something, who have offered to help, who see this nightmare unfold and want to make it better somehow. We love and appreciate that so much. For those of you who are looking to take action right now, to show your support for the first responders who are trying to save lives, and for the victims of gun violence, one great way to do that is to donate blood. According to Johns Hopkins University, gunshot wounds require much more blood than other types of injuries. You just heard Dr. Smith talk about the amount of blood that was needed and used yesterday. He mentioned his thanks to the Red Cross. We're very thankful to the American Red Cross. So we encourage people to make an appointment to donate at redcrossblood.org. It's redcrossblood.org. We encourage everyone to donate blood, and if you can't, there are other ways to support the American Red Cross with donations or your time. Next, I'd like to call Steve Cunanan, who's CEO of the Louisville Red Cross. Steve?
Our thoughts and our deepest sympathies are with the people of Louisville and those that have been impacted by Monday's tragic shooting. At the request of local emergency management on Monday, the American Red Cross Louisville area chapter and its volunteers helped support a family reunification center. The Red Cross continues to work with local authorities and their community partners and is helping to provide aid and assistance to those people affected by this tragedy. At this time, the American Red Cross is working closely with the University of Louisville Hospital. And as Dr. Smith has mentioned, we have provided more than 170 units of blood products to the hospital to treat those that have been affected by this. The Red Cross stands ready to provide additional blood and blood products upon request. And as the mayor has mentioned, volunteer blood donors are needed each and every day to help save lives. This tragedy illustrates that it's the blood that's already on hand and on the shelves that helps during an emergency. Type O negative is the universal blood type, and that is what the emergency room personnel use and what they reach for when they don't have time to determine a blood type, and that's one of the types that is needed most. The American Red Cross is grateful to all those donors who generously give blood throughout this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve, to all you and all of your colleagues, Red Cross. There's one more topic that we need to talk about today, and that's guns. Yesterday's tragedy brings us to 40 people who've been shot to death this year in our city. That level of gun violence is beyond horrific, and it's beyond anything we can and will accept in our community. Our police did a heroic job yesterday and every day. And we are already doing a lot to reduce the amount of gun violence in our city and make Louisville safer. We're investing in neighborhoods and in people who have been overlooked for generations, so every child has an opportunity to succeed and pursue their hopes and dreams. We're going to invest more in mental health care. We're working to make universal pre-K a reality. Workforce development initiatives for young and older adults alike. These are all important. These are all also long-term solutions. We have to take action now. We need short-term action to end this gun violence epidemic now, so fewer people die on our streets and in our banks and in our schools and in our churches. And for that, we need help. We need help from our friends in Frankfurt and help from our friends in Washington, D.C. This isn't about partisan politics. This is about life and death. This is about preventing tragedies. You may think this will never happen to you, never happen to any of your friends or loved ones. I used to think that. The sad truth is that now no one in our city, no one in our state, no one in our country has that luxury anymore. Last year, I survived a workplace shooting. And now yesterday, I've lost a very close friend in another workplace shooting. 5 more families have lost a loved one. It has happened in Louisville. It could happen in Paducah, in Pikeville, or in Covington. This is happening in America everywhere and will keep happening until we say enough and take meaningful action. Congressman McGarvey will talk about some things at the federal level. So I'll address what we can do at the state level. I have 2 requests today for every Kentucky state senator and every Kentucky state representative who wants to join me in reducing the amount of gun violence in Louisville. First, if you support police officers like Officer Wilt and Officer Galloway, who heroically ran into a barrage of fire from a waiting assailant with an assault rifle, if you support local decision-making to address local issues, if you want to help our state's largest city thrive, please give Louisville the autonomy to deal with our unique gun violence epidemic. Let us, the people of Louisville, make our own choices about how we reduce gun violence in our city. Other communities should be able to make the policies that work for them. Let us implement policies that work for us. Please change our state law to let Louisville make its own decisions about reducing the amount of illegal guns on our streets and gun violence that is killing far too many people in mass shootings, in individual shootings, in any shootings. Let me be clear. I don't care about finger pointing. I don't care about blame. I don't care about politics. I'm only interested in working together with our state legislators to take meaningful action, to save lives, to prevent more tragic injuries and more death. Arguing is not a strategy. Doing nothing is not a strategy. It's not a solution. Second thing, to those in the national media that are joining us here today, this may be even more shocking than it is to those of us locally who know this and are dealing with this. But under current Kentucky law, the assault rifle that was used to murder 5 of our neighbors and shoot at rescuing police officers will one day be auctioned off. Think about that. That murder weapon will be back on the streets one day under Kentucky's current law. My administration has already taken action to remove the firing pin before turning confiscated guns over to the state, because that's all that the current law allows us to do. That's not enough. It's time to change this law and let us destroy illegal guns and destroy the guns that have been used to kill our friends and kill our neighbors. I know every member of the state legislature, like everyone else in our state and in our country, is horrified by what we saw yesterday, by what we see in other cities around the country. None of us wants this to happen again. None of us wants this to happen in our neighborhood, but it will keep happening. That's why we have to do more than what we've already done. Let's change the state laws that would make me a criminal for trying too hard to stop the real evil criminals who are taking other people's lives and who are eager to make a spectacle of mass murder. The laws we have now are enabling violence and murder. It's time to change those laws to save lives and keep our people safe. To those in the Kentucky State Legislature, let's work together. I look forward to working with you on this. Now, I'd like to welcome Congressman Morgan McCarthy.
Morning. Thank you to Mayor Greenberg and your team, Rachel, for your leadership through this. I'm not here today simply as a congressman. I'm a lifelong Louisvillian, born and raised here. My heart hurts. I got the call yesterday when I was in Washington, D.C. You know exactly when it happened yet, but you've got that feeling of dread. That something's wrong. This isn't normal. And then more information starts coming out. And the heartbreak begins. And the names start coming out. You know them. And they're friends. Because this is Louisville. Louisville, Kentucky. The biggest small town in America. We call it Louisville because really and truly everybody knows everybody. We are not 7 degrees of separation from people. We are 1 degree of separation from people. When we ask you, what school did you go to? We mean high school. I went to Manual High School. My mom went to Wagner High School. Louisville is my home. And we are hurting. This is an unimaginable tragedy for our community. Mayor Greenberg mentioned Deanna Eckert passed away last night. A lovely woman. Jim Tutt is no longer with us. Josh Barrett is no longer with us. The woman who was the maid of honor in our wedding, for whom we are the godparents of 2 of their children, called me yesterday from the Barrett's house and said, I'm with Jessica Barrett. She hasn't heard from her husband, and we find out if he's alive. I called LMPD, and as they did everything yesterday, quick in their response, I had to call back and say, I cannot confirm anything. He's not on the list for that. And she had to tell their 2 small children that their father would never come home from work. Juliana Farmer is no longer with us. Tommy Elliott, my friend, is no longer with us. Because it's Louisville, I didn't just know Tommy, I knew Tommy well. His wife even worked with my wife for a time at a company here in town. Their lives have been forever changed. The people who knew them are forever changed. Our community is forever changed. I am so grateful for the quick response of the Louisville Metro Police Department. Chief, your team was incredible yesterday. You run headfirst into that gunfire, without question, saved lives. It also changed lives. Officer Wilt, you know, is fighting right now after being struck in the head by an AR-15 round on his 4th ever shift as a police officer. The team at U of L, thank you, Dr. Smith. Again, this is the collateral damage of gun violence. Every person who touched these victims and these officers had to deal with this trauma and will have to process this trauma in their own way. Thank you also to all of our first responders, the Louisville Fire Department, our emergency medical technicians, to the FBI, to the DF, to everyone who is involved. Continue to pray for the people recovering. and need it, and we want it. Today and in the weeks ahead, we are grieving. We are hurting, hurt, are responding. But we are the Avilians. And that same close-knit community that creates this heartbeat will knit together the strength that brings us back. I'm proud of the mayor and his team for the job they've done. Talk with the governor, but also work with federal authorities, talking with Secretary Mayorkas, Homeland Security, and Vice President of the United States. They are sending additional resources to Louisville, including counseling. Unfortunately, this is not the first, second, or third time an incident like this has happened in our country. They know what to do, and they're going to be helping us out. I will continue with our federal and local officials to mobilize the resources we need, working with our police departments, our faith leaders, our city and state leaders, to make sure that our city receives what it needs to begin healing. And we need to take this grief and turn it into action. I am a person of faith. I was raised in the church. We raised our church. Please, if you are a person of faith and you want to give us your thoughts and your prayers, we want them and we need them. Our community is hurting. But we need policies in place that will keep this from happening again, so that thoughts and prayers do not have to be offered to yet another community ripped apart by the savage violence coming from guns. Look at what's happening. I had somebody tell me the other day, don't make this political. Fine, don't make this political. People's lives aren't political. Public safety isn't political. Put those policies in place that put people first. People over guns, kids over guns, public safety over guns. Because that is what we need to address this problem. I'm an optimist. Maybe to be a Democrat in Kentucky, you have to. But I have seen us come together in the state legislature where I served before being elected to Congress, working with some of my conservative colleagues to introduce crisis aversion rights retention laws that would help temporarily remove firearms from people in crisis. This investigation is dynamic and ongoing, but we know this shooter purchased an AR-15 rifle on April 4th. We know he left a note. We know he texted or called at least one person to let them know he was suicidal and contemplating harm. But we don't have the tools on the books to deal with someone who is an imminent danger to themselves or to others. We can do this. We can come together at the federal level, working with each other to solve this problem, which is impacting all of us in a uniquely American way, and get universal background checks so that people who shouldn't have a gun can't buy one. That we are taking weapons of war off of our streets. That we are helping people who are in crisis. That is not a political issue, but it becomes one. When Kentucky Republicans would rather ban books and pronouns and then make Kentucky a sanctuary state for weapons. We are hurting. And no matter what policy we pass, no, it will not bring back these people. This will not bring back our friends, our neighbors, and our loved ones. We will continue to get the resources for our community that we need. And we will continue to work to make sure that we have the policies in place that keep other families, other loved ones, other kids from going through this tragedy again.
Thank you, Congressman McGarvey. Dr. Smith, Chief, Congressman, myself, were available to take some questions from the media, and because we have many people joining us that we don't typically see, if you could please just let us know what your outlet is as we call them.
Sir, I'm from CNN, Mark Morales. If you could speak a little bit, or maybe the police chief could speak to the actual motive. Have we made any grounds on that to actually decide? Do we know what the motive is? And secondly, it sounds like there was a lot of planning to this. The note that was mentioned that was left to purchase the weapon on the 4th. Can we get some more details about that and what the level of planning was for this?
The chief might have some other things to add. I don't believe we have any other information to provide at this point. As the chief mentioned earlier, we have been able to confirm that he was a current employee of the bank and when he purchased the weapon, but
Nothing else further at this time. We do know that this was in Louisville Kentucky. Even that was played out on yesterday, keeping us live, and we have seen another, still unfortunate, but again, the investigation is ongoing, and whatever we cover, we will actually.
Was he specifically targeting anyone?
we don't have an answer to that yet. Mark. We don't know. We just know what the results are. We certainly continue that as part of the investigation.
Can you speak procedurally about what is next? We know that your protocol when officers put a weapon in the costume. Can you give us a timeline of what that looks like? We know how many officers that costumes are.
And I have my colleague here. Reporting it, what we got the email yesterday. So like, and just share that these are the investigation. And I think it's
So at this point, because of the complexity, we made a determination yesterday to segment the internal shooting where between the shooter and the employees, a homicide investigation, and then the public integrity unit will be the external shooting incident, which was between the suspect and the officer. And there's two separate investigations going. Louisville Metro Police will be handling the public integrity unit and the homicide investigation. We discussed with the KSB yesterday and determined that was the appropriate route for us to keep it within our structure. As far as number of rounds or any specific information, it's going to be quite some time before we're going to share any of that specifics to take the investigation over. As I think we've said multiple times.
Yes, ma'am.
Adrian Broadus from CNN. My question is thank you first of all. Can you share with us what is on your mind? What that process was like to operate on the officer?
Sure. Well, I won't get into too many specifics about pages we're currently. We did operate on 3 of them yesterday. My team were absolute professionals. We trained for this. It's difficult to, it's very difficult to be able to process what's going on during that time. And so the training that we do with our emergency department nurses and physicians, our surgical service trauma teams, the blood bank, all of that makes a huge difference in being able to save those lives because we have to act quickly. But I'll be honest, caring for 3 shooting victims, plus the other that came in, is not an unfrequent day for us. And the events surrounding this made this obviously much more difficult. But to be honest with you, we barely had to adjust our operating room schedule to be able to do this. That's how frequent we are having to deal with gun violence in our community. I'll tell you personally, I'm weary. I've been in Louisville for 15 years, all of it at the University Hospital. For 15 years, I've cared for victims of violence and gunshot. And people say I'm tired, but I'll be honest, it's more than tired. I'm weary. There's only so many times you can walk into a room, tell someone they're not coming home tomorrow. And it just breaks your heart. When you hear someone screaming, "Mommy, Daddy," it just becomes too hard day in and day out to be able to do that. Now, my team is fantastic. They're absolute professionals and they're wonderful. But sooner or later, it catches up to everybody. You just can't keep doing what we're doing because you just can't keep seeing these lives lost. You can't keep seeing all the people with these horrific injuries coming through the door without doing something to try and help. And I don't know what the answer is. I'm a doctor. I don't know what the answer is. But to everyone who helps make policy, both at state, city, federal, I would simply ask you to do something. Because doing nothing, which is what we've been doing, is not working. We have to do something. Because this is just getting out of hand across our city and across this great nation. Yeah, and so he's still in the ICU. He's still sick. And I apologize. I'm not going to release any other information for the patients that we're still taking care of.
Still in critical, yesterday, the next 24 hours are going to be very intense. That's still the same stance today.
Yes, so he's still in critical condition in our ICU. He's being treated by our surgery team, being treated by our trauma team, our anesthesia team, and still undergoing a lot of care.
Good news, we had another patient. I know we talked a lot about the first people trauma care, but another person was able to walk out of the hospital. How does that feel to see the good part of this day?
Yeah, so I mean, the answer is that, today we had 4, we may have 3. The ones that are doing well are doing well. And I think, the work that we do with physicians and the nurses at the hospital is just, it's unbelievable sometimes the people that we're able to save these. We have partners like the Red Cross that can get us, 170 units of blood in an 8-hour period of time. It's just the coordination of the city, of the healthcare system, and of the hospital is outstanding to be able to say that those patients are.
There are security that the bank that we talk about any steps that the bank can save lives or might have taken that like
Yeah, I'll call the chief of someone from LMPD to talk about precautions to take if this ever happens to you or you find yourself in a similar situation. I don't think we have the information yet on what were armed guards within the bank. We don't have any evidence that there was. We have not yet confirmed that. Chief, you or someone else? Like you said, we have no information about any armed security that was at the bank. But in these situations, it's very simple. Run, hide, fight. Right? I can say that we do know that people save their own lives. When they heard the gunshots and they either run or hid, and they got out of the danger area, and we are grateful for that. So run, hide, fight. Get out of the area. You cannot get out of the area. Hide. You cannot hide safely. Fight. Do not think that you do not have the capacity to fight back and save your life. When it comes down to it, that's the only choice you have, and you better fight like your life depends on it, because you have to. So run, hide, fight.
Aaron Kelly with Spectrum News. How many people died at the time, and was this?
We don't have an exact number of people who were in the building when the shooting yet. The shooting took place on the first floor, which is slightly elevated from the sidewalk because of the grade there. There were other people in the buildings. LMPD did clear the entire building in a very safe and rapid manner. So there were many other people in the building. We don't have those exact numbers yet.
Yeah, question for the chief regarding Officer Wilt. Officer Galloway was also mentioned. First of all, is that his field training officer? Obviously, as we heard, this was his 4th shift on the job. Is it accurate to say he still did not hesitate in running towards this at all? And neither did Officer Galloway.
Just truly, our actions, and everybody else that was went for danger, in order to save, and that's what you saw yesterday. Right? Some of the lives, hesitation.
And how do you, as we've heard from Dr. Smith, being weary about his staff having to treat gunshot victims over and over, are you weary about your officers having to run into these deadly circumstances frequently?
I'm very disappointed as to my officers are running and standing up. They're still engaged. They're still serving the city. I'm weary that we're dealing with the violence. I'm not weary that my officers are going to lay down and stop, what they are told and trained to do. And they looked at me and they were truly amazed at how everybody came together. And one of the questions I asked them on yesterday, I said, if we don't go, who will? And they all nodded that they're going. And so we'll continue to go, because the citizens of this great city depends on us. And so I'm just really proud of the resiliency of LMPD, the men and women of this great city showing up and they're serving, and I appreciate them, and I appreciate the community support for our department.
One question here, and then, 1 second, Isaiah, we'll get this question, and we'll continue.
This update throughout this week. First, can you just, Officer Galloway, thoughts?
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Graves on the left side.
Can you also speak to any potential history that may have existed? Suspect you heard about possible voicemail via dispatch audio by city family at this point. Have you heard about a possible mental health issues? Any kind of context you get about what may have led up to this?
Again, it's still ongoing, and we're just trying to piece everything together and just really unfold everything. But again, once we have it all, you'll be able to receive that information in this time and accuracy, because that's important. So right now, we're just still at the beginning. I know we want more, but we're right here, and just family deserves it. Right, continue the right way.
Confirm an existence.
Sorry,
An existence of it.
I don't want to confirm that just yet. Confirmation of the night. I'm just gonna leave it.
Isaiah? That is not, from what I have been told, from an official at the bank, that is not accurate. The shooter was a current employee of the bank. Not to my knowledge. I don't believe that is correct. I don't believe that is correct. We're going to continue to keep trying. We've been doing a lot. We've started to do things that had not been previously done, both in terms of short-term action with respect to reducing the amount of illegal guns on our street and long-term investments in people in neighborhoods. And we're going to keep trying. We're working with our partners on the Metro Council, who I know are very supportive of a lot of what we're talking about here, because like me, they care about our city today, and they care about our city tomorrow. But one way we can do more is with the help of the state legislators. And that's why I'm reaching out to all of them today, and will continue in the days and weeks and months ahead, is to help us, give us more tools in our toolbox to address this unique gun violence epidemic that we have in Louisville in a way that the members of the Metro Council and our administration and the people of Louisville feel is most appropriate to keep our city safe.
You want to see a special session?
I'm not calling for a special session at this time. I want to have conversations. I want to work on a plan, and I want to work on getting that implemented as fast as possible, and we can figure out those details. Yeah, there are always other patients. There's a simple answer to that. When we appreciate everyone getting out, they're donating blood now helps us in the future. And the lives that were saved yesterday were
because of the American Red Cross and the blood they had on the shelves and the blood that they provided us. So going now to donate and continuing to donate is what's going to make a difference for the patients that are coming through the doors tomorrow, today, a week from now, a month from now. It's not just enough to go once, because the blood is a finite resource that lasts a finite period of time. It needs a continual effort from all those in the community to help supply the blood products needed to care for those that are victims of violence, of trauma, of car accidents. And I think that is really the message to get out, is give blood and continue to do that.
The names of the other two officers.
One was Officer Galloway that we were talking about. It was not the result of a gunshot. The third officer was injured in the response, not as the result of a gunshot. I'm not aware of anything in relation to that, so I don't have any information on that. In the blue. The most important thing in the immediate aftermath, in the minutes after that, was to ensure that our officers could respond, and that they could respond initially to the scene as they did, and secure the scene, and start ensuring that there was access to the hospitals for the victims, and to get support to the victims who were there. That was the immediate focus, and so shortly after the shooting, sent out to avoid that area. Understand that was well after the situation. The immediate danger had been addressed and neutralized, but we still wanted to keep people away from that office. We had from that area, we had so many first responders of all sorts that were there, and we were trying to keep those lanes clear and people away from there so that we could focus on doing what they needed to do. Not at this time.
Hi, my name is Natalie Mitchell. I know you've mentioned that he was injured and could you have more details about how near his entrance building meeting for his colleagues? When exactly that time?
He was a current employee who worked at that building. He had access to the building as a result of being an employee in that building.
Do we know if shooter armed with multiple weapons or just an AR? And do we have an idea of how many rounds he was able to discharge in a short period? So, this is question is how many how many
How many guns did the shooter have?
Yes.
Yeah, at this point in the investigation, we haven't heard of specifics on firearms other than what's already been stated. How many rounds were fired, how many people involved. It's premature for us to have that discussion. So gathering the information, even what we think we know right now, it would be premature to hang our head and say this is 100% what happened. And it's still ongoing. If it's not appropriate, responsible for that information right now, then we have to walk it back in a later time.
We have time for a couple more from folks that have not asked.
I know this box 56. You'll be releasing the name of the officer, Connor, and will you release any information on the time from when the shooting happened to the time that he was taken down by this officer? Will we have any more details?
Well, it was just as we mentioned yesterday, it was just a matter of minutes. I believe the 911 call we beat, and we were on scene at 8:41.
9 minutes from start to finish before we began. Then we were notified 3 minutes after that. We responded 3 minutes after that. And then within,
Yes, but the name of the officer.
and we will get into more detail with this when we go through the videos this afternoon. But it's about a 9-minute span from the time he begins his assault. And then a few minutes after that, before we get the first call, 3 minutes after that, when we respond to the scene, and then about 3 minutes after we subject to neutralize.
And the name of the officer, Connor.
We've said multiple times, it's also done.
If I were to go back to this, and then go to the side.
With the CJ, I'll keep that away. How would they get their kind of addition to it and just how in general?
That's their geographic area of responsibility. They were patrolling the immediate area.
I'm sorry, did you say Officer Galloway if you shot the shooter?
Yes. Yes. Previously worked on that, we don't have any other information on that. We, again, as was mentioned, we will continue to provide updates on all of this. We'll be releasing body camera footage later this afternoon. If there are other updates available at that point in time, we'll make them available. Thank you all very much. Have a good day.
You guys, I am actually going to end this live. I am going to go live for a little bit where I can actually talk and answer some of the questions that was said in the chat. One thing I can say, our hospital staff is not short because of COVID shots. Now, trauma, on the other hand, and the amount of gun wounds and shit that we deal with here, yeah. So we'll come log in. I'll come back in a little bit and talk about some of the things. And then I also want to clear some things up because yesterday there was some stuff that I didn't know and now we know. So I will be back in just a little bit. For any of those that need to know, again, the community visual for this will be tomorrow at 5 o'clock at the Muhammad Ali Center. So if you want to come to that, please. I think it's important for everybody to come if you're in town or whatever. And so again, that will be 5 p.m. tomorrow at the Muhammad Ali Center. So I will be back here in just a bit. As you can see, I think we have every media outlet that's here. So, all right, talk to y'all soon.